Welcome back into the Friday Night 360 AZ preview show. It is that time in the show where we are breaking down these semifinal matchups. Haley Stasiak and Jordan Ham here. We will start off in 6A with Perry at Mountain Pointe. This one's going to be a good one. I think I've talked about Perry and Mountain Pointe a lot. Through this season, you've got one of the best offenses going up against one of the best defenses, a quarterback battle between Brock Purdy and Nick Wallerstedt, who are both big dual threat guys. And then, of course, like I said, the defense with Mountain Pointe. That's going to pose the biggest challenge to Perry's offense. And then Mountain Pointe's run game and Gary Bragg and Jakeem McKinney will pose a threat to Perry's defense.
And Wallerstedt, that he's a huge aspect of this offense as well. But on Perry's side, I mean, what else can you say about Brock Purdy? He has 120 total touchdowns in 3 years. Like all the guy does is perform, and he's got some great playmakers around him. Deshane James, Colby Dickey, a really good and more experienced offensive line. He can just spread the ball around, and it seems like when you think you have him contained, all of a sudden you don't. Yeah, that's the big mistake against Purdy. On the other side, though, as you said, with the defense for Mountain Pointe, you look at this secondary that they have. I think it's tough to argue that they don't have the best secondary in the entire state. Marshawn Gibson, Tyree Johnson, Delano Salgado, Kenny Churchwell, like all of these guys are ball hawks. They're able just to attack it. Wallerstedt and that offense, it's kind of what I've said in various columns and even on these airwaves is, Mountain Pointe's the type of team that, when you're playing pool basketball, you'll have the guys that'll try to splash you and, try to get around you. Mountain Pointe's the one that just hangs on and tries to drown you. They want to control, they want to dominate, and they just want to control the clock. So it's two very different styles that I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens when they come together. And that's going to be one of the games that I'm going to be at this Friday.
5A now, Liberty at Centennial. Now, Centennial pulled out the win against Chaparral in the quarters last week. That game started out like it was going to kind of be back and forth, but Centennial did pull away and ultimately get the win. This is going to be another good rematch, however. And you saw Liberty and Centennial play in that final game of the regular season where Liberty got the upset. So what do you see in this that's going to be key?
Two really evenly matched teams, especially in the trenches. These are two teams that really pride themselves on dominating the offensive and defensive line. Zidane Thomas had a pretty good game against Liberty. He was able to break a big run or two. Alex Escobar was able to get out on the outside, and it seemed like there was a drive where it would be like Zidane Thomas, 3-yard pickup, Ryan Puskas from Liberty would tackle him, 3-yard pickup, Ryan Puskas would tackle him. And it seemed like there were like 3 drives like that, and then eventually they were able to get the ball out to Escobar, and he was able to break one. But don't sleep on Liberty. This is a team. I do think that Centennial should have won that football game. Liberty was basically like a zombie team because they kept coming back to life when you thought that the game was over, and they were able to force some key turnovers, and that's what good teams do. They were able to take the rare mistake that Centennial has and really take full advantage. Ryan Bendel is a dual threat guy. He's slippery. He's tough to bring down, and he just has a nice touch on the ball. It reminds me sort of like Baker Mayfield, how he's able just to get a throw on the run off his back foot and just have a perfect touch to his receivers. And as I've mentioned, Ryan Puskas, he's one of my favorite players in the state. I love the way this guy plays. He's a safety. He's great in pass coverage, but he can come up and defend the run really well. So I have a feeling this is going to be another really close game, and whoever wins this game is definitely going to earn that spot in the state title, and be facing off against the winner of Notre Dame and Cienega.
In 4A, we've got South Pointe Catholic at Sunrise Mountain. Now, South Pointe beat Cactus last week 49-14. Again, in the mention of Bijan Robinson. He had 130 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns in that win. And then on the other side of that, you've got Sunrise Mountain quarterback Keegan Freed, who had 3 passing touchdowns and threw for 259 yards in last week's win. This is going to be a pretty good offensive matchup, I think.
Yeah, and I'm going to give a shout out to Arizona Varsity's Ralph Amsden, friend of the show, friend of Sports 360 AZ. He brought up a really good point when previewing this earlier this week on his Periscope, that South Pointe has those big guys up front And Sunrise is a very talented team, but they are sort of a smaller team in stature. And Jason Jewell actually was out at Sunrise's practice, and they were doing tackling drills. Like, they're getting ready. They're pumping themselves up. They know that they have some big beasts that they need to take on against Sal Pointe. So Sunrise seems to be prepping themselves properly for this game. And then, as you said, with Bijan Robinson, just one of the best up-and-coming running backs in this state. Love what Keegan Freed does on Sunrise Mountain's side. Angel Ruiz is a matchup problem for anybody. I expect him to have a big game. He's really stepped his game up as the postseason has progressed as well. So it's going to be a fun 1-4 matchup there, and I believe Eric's going to that game.
Next up on the other side of 4A is Higley at Saguaro. Now, this is yet another rematch that you saw earlier in this season. Saguaro took that one 42-14. What is Higley going to have to do to get this one?
They're going to have to control the tempo. They did a pretty good job of that at the beginning of that game, and they were aided by some penalties that Saguaro had. They were able to get into the end zone pretty quickly. But I mean, this Saguaro team is just so stinking deep. It's really hard. And I was at the Saguaro Peoria game this past week. They forced 4 turnovers in a quarter and a half against Peoria, including a pick 6. So when the defense is rolling like that, and it makes that talented offense's job that much easier, working with 30-yard fields every time. That's really tough to stop. But Higley came in. I don't think they were intimidated by Saguaro in any way. They definitely had the respect for him, but they didn't. They weren't on their heels. I felt like they were able to, really compete with those guys. And I'm sure it's really tough to beat a team twice in the same season. We've seen a couple of these, matchups have to happen. So I'm not counting out Higley in any way. Saguaro is definitely going to have to bring it. But it seems like that Saguaro defense is definitely clicking at the right time.
In 3A now, Benjamin Franklin at Push Ridge. Now, Benjamin Franklin hasn't lost a game since the beginning of the season, and then Push Ridge, that #1 seed, is undefeated. These are both run-heavy teams, so could see yet another high-scoring game here.
Yeah, and this game's going to be done by 8:30 because just running, the clock's going to be running, not many incompletes. Christian Festus is a guy that jumps out to me for Push Ridge. 15 touchdowns passing, just 3 interceptions, nearly 1,000 rushing yards, and then an additional 16 rushing touchdowns. So you're going to have to deal with him if you're Benjamin Franklin. And then on the other side, you have, just the 2 great running backs for Benjamin Franklin. Zach Jeffries, Chandler Miles, they've combined for 42 touchdowns this year. So, this is going to be another one of those, another one of those just, grind them out type games. Winner will get the winner of Castile and ALA. And like we've said, kind of once the brackets were released, the 5A, it's so tough to navigate that, but the 3A, it seems like there were 8 teams that could really navigate that bracket. The top 4 seeds are in there, but they're definitely contenders. And, it wouldn't surprise me to see anybody in that final game.
In 2A, we've got Santa Cruz Valley and Round Valley. Both of these teams are undefeated. Santa Cruz Valley is looking to take down the #1 seed and end that undefeated season for Round Valley. Dust Devils are a run team, so the Elks are going to have to stop that too.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Just as we look at 2A, the 4 teams remaining with Santa Cruz Valley, Round Valley, Thatcher, and Phoenix Christian, just all 4 of them just have really strong run games. So that's just going to be something to watch out for as 2A progresses.
And then, like you said, Thatcher at Phoenix Christian. I think Thatcher is an all-around pretty balanced team here. So Phoenix Christian's pretty good, though, like you said, in that run game, and their quarterback, Hunter Cole, is a dual threat. He had 29 touchdowns and 6 rushing touchdowns on the year. So good guy there, and that 2A, we don't see a lot of it, but we hear a lot of it, and it's a pretty good division as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Credit where credit is due for the AIA. The only team that wasn't a top 4 seed that is in this semifinal is Red Mountain. So there may be some discrepancies between who's 1, who's 2, who's 3, and who's 4, but for every bracket, the top 4 seeds are in there. So they did a pretty good job seeding there. I know that a lot of times when there's some questionable decisions or things like that, the AIA is the first to be called out. But credit where credit is due, they did a really good job seeding this entire tournament for all divisions.
Semifinal action starts on Friday with 6A to 4A, and then Saturday night we'll see 3A and 2A action. Be sure to use that Friday Night 360 AZ hashtag both Friday and Saturday. Tweet us your links and your pictures. We will be sure to retweet them. That's all we've got for you on the Friday Night 360 AZ preview show. We'll see you next time.